Hello, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today, I'm here to talk about my quarterly goals. This is something new I started doing last year where in addition to picking an overarching annual goal for the year, some were just an area of focus, a thing I wanted to focus on and improve over the course of the calendar year. I decided to go ahead and also pick quarterly focuses or things I was going to essentially niche down in on and really make progress on one specific thing just for that quarter. This allowed me to feel like I made significant progress at the end of the quarter in a shorter time frame than an entire year. Because sometimes, even though you are making all of the progress on your goals, and you can see it on your monthly goal tracking sheet, you don't feel like you actually get to check anything off as you go throughout the year. And these quarterly goals give me that opportunity to feel like I can put a big check mark, which I love. I love checking things off, and having these quarterly goals gives me that opportunity to check things off throughout the year. So in this video, I'm going to do the same thing I do with my monthly goals videos, where I share last quarter's goals and what my quarterly goals were and how I did them. I typically will rate them, if you watch last year's videos, on like a scale of 1 to 10, kind of how I did. Some of them are kind of a true check, I did that, and then some of them are like, maybe like a 7 out of 10. And then I will share my upcoming quarterly goals that I have set for the second quarter. But let's start with Q1. If you are new here or you haven't been following along, I do have 6 goals for the entire year. I really have sort of split them up into 3 major and 3 minor goals. So 3 major goals that I want to make significant, massive progress on, and then 3 minor goals that are also important to me, but definitely will always take a backseat throughout the year. So let's start with the first major goal, which is to build a profitable business, and that's to focus on PlanwithLaken as a business. And my quarterly goal for Q1 was to launch a course, and I did that. That one definitely just gets a big check mark, 10 out of 10. Not only did I launch my course in Q1, but I completed my course and I hit my goal to have 100 women, goal-focused women sign up for the course, and it was awesome. So I'm really excited about that goal, and you will see I do have something course related as a goal for Q2 as well. My next major annual goal is to lose weight. That's probably my number 2 goal and something that I'm really focusing on this year. So my Q1 goal was to start working with a nutrition coach, and I would probably give this one a 7 out of 10, and nothing to do with my coach. She is absolutely amazing, and working with her for the first 8 weeks of this year was fantastic. I learned so much and I made a ton of progress. And then she gave me a soft graduation, and she told me, I want you to go out on your own and I want you to try it, and then, let me know how it's going, and we can always revisit working together again if you don't feel like it's going well without the accountability. Unfortunately, the timing didn't really work out, because around the time that she gave me this soft graduation and had me go out on my own, we also had a family emergency that took a lot of our attention for a couple of weeks, and then we moved. And so all of the things that I learned and was working on with her completely fell to the back burner, and that's why it's a 7 out of 10 and not a 10 out of 10. And then the last major goal that I have for 2021 is to prioritize our physical space. And the Q1 goal that I had was thoughtful packing. I wanted to be thoughtful about what we were bringing into our new apartment and really careful with our packing. Unfortunately, also, we had to pack in a much shorter time frame than originally planned. So this one unfortunately doesn't get as great of a score as I would want to give it. I probably would give it a 5 out of 10 because of the rushed packing at the end. I did end up making some packing decisions and bringing some things that I ended up getting rid of once we got here. But I still did a lot of thoughtful packing in terms of color coding, which made unpacking very easy, labeling the boxes, which made unpacking very easily, and then we still did get rid of a lot of things that we didn't bring into our new space. All right, let's shift to the minor goals. So the first minor goal for this year is to solidify our relationship and prepare for marriage, and the quarterly focus for this year was to spend quality time together. Maybe like a 2 out of 10. This one did not go very well. Again, there was just a lot of things that came up that we weren't expecting, and I would not consider the time that we spent together quality. Did we spend a lot of time together? Yes, that is the current situation that we're in, but I wouldn't consider it quality. And so heads up, you're gonna see the exact same quarterly focus for Q2. All right, the next minor goal is to spend time doing things that make me happy, and the Q1 focus was less screen time. And I feel like I did a decent job of this. I never really found my groove in terms of tracking it. Once I did kind of find my groove, that's when everything kind of changed and everything was going on. And so I really didn't get a feel for it. So I would probably give this one, again, maybe a 5 out of 10 as well. I don't think I did a great job, but I do think I did better than I have in the past. This is something I still want to continue to work on over the rest of 2021. It's not something that I'm dropping completely. I do still want to really prioritize spending less time on my phone, but you'll see I'm not planning to incorporate that into my actual goals, like into my power sheets for Q2. It doesn't mean it's not going to be something that I think about as something that's important to me for the rest of the year. And then the last minor goal is to be intentional about spending and saving. And the Q1 goal was thoughtful tracking. So I wanted to make sure that in my finance spreadsheet that I use, I wanted to track very specifically. And this one I would probably give a 7 out of 10. I did a really good job until we got to the move, and then I was just like, forget it, and I just threw everything into a category I called move. Even like eating out that week and basically anything the week of the move, I was like, it's moving, that's all it is. And it came from our savings that we had saved for the move. So I did not do a good job of that, and there were probably some expenses in there that I didn't need to lump into moving and might have been better off tracked in a different category specifically. So that's why it's a 7 out of 10, but I still feel really good about this one. So those were my Q1 focuses. Overall, I feel like I did a pretty good job. The only one that kind of really didn't happen at all was spending quality time with my fiance, which is why we're carrying it over to Q2. Otherwise, I feel like I did a pretty good job in Q1. And again, it just gives me that sense of success and progress that I'm actually making on my goals versus the tiny steps that I take every single month. So let's move on to talking about Q2 and the quarterly refresh, which is part of the Cultivate What Matters power sheets, which is the goal setting planner that I use. And the first thing that they have you do is revisit your annual goals. If you want to change anything about your annual goals, whether it's taking some off, adding some in, or even just rewording them, they give you a space to rewrite your annual goals. This quarter, I happened to not change any of my annual goals. I kept all 6 of them. I kept the wording exactly the same. I was tempted to put them in order of priority from the most important and all the majors, and then not the least important, but less important. But I decided just to keep them in Word GBIV. I just really like the way that it looks. But I kept all 6 of my annual goals exactly the same. The only one I considered slightly changing the wording of, which you'll see on the quarterly goal page, I did change the wording slightly, is spending time doing things that make me happy, because that goal, I really also want to incorporate rest thoughtfully into that goal. And rest does make me happy, or it should make me happy, but sometimes, especially as an Enneagram type 3, I struggle with rest and it gives me more guilt than it does happiness. So I kind of wanted to reword that to include rest, and you'll see that when we get to the quarterly focuses. So I actually have 8 quarterly focuses for Q2. I still only have the 6 annual goals, but 2 of the annual goals, 2 of the major goals, I have 2 quarterly focuses for, so I end up having 8 quarterly focuses total. So let's go in the same order, starting with building a profitable business, my PlanwithLaken related goal. This is one that I have 2 quarterly focuses for. The first one is to work on my online courses. I have purchased so many online courses for my business, and I am sometimes making progress on them, and sometimes they are just sitting there collecting virtual dust, and that's just a waste. So what I really want to do is I want to go through the list and honestly kind of like decluttering an item that I'm not going to use. If there is a course that is no longer something that I want to spend my time on, I kind of just want to delete it from the list or get rid of it, because it's making me feel more guilty having it sit there on the list if I'm never going to actually do it. So I want to start by making a list of all the courses, and then I want to make a plan. What's the order that I'm going to do them in? And then I want to start working on them. At least once a week, I want to spend at least an hour working on my online courses. I can make 1 hour a week happen. So those are the ideas I have so far for this goal. One thing that I want to make sure I tell you, and something that I am telling myself, I don't have to have every goal broken down absolutely perfectly at the beginning of the quarter. I have a couple of ideas jotted down, some of which made their way onto my April tending list. That video will be out next week. Some of them are for future tending lists, but there could be more ideas that come over the course of the quarter. I don't need to have it all perfectly broken down and every step and idea related to that goal done at the beginning of the quarter. I can go back and add ideas as we go through the quarter. So the second Plan with Laken related quarterly focus is to relaunch the course. So I am going to be teaching another live round of my course, Accelerate Your Goals. I have not finalized the dates. That's actually the first task on the list, is to finalize the dates and make a plan for the course and then set up some automations. I did a lot of manual things during the last launch, and I really want to set up some automations for it this go around. But I'm excited to relaunch it, and because it is almost a duplicate of a goal that I did last quarter, that's why I felt comfortable having two goals for this overarching annual goal, because I knew that one was pretty simple. The online courses is simple but time intense. The online course, with the exception of actually teaching it, is not going to be as time intense because I've already created all the PowerPoints. I've already written all the talking points. I've already done it once. So it's really just about making a plan, setting up some automations, launching it and teaching it, and it isn't as time intense as it was last time. So I feel comfortable doing both of these goals for that overarching annual goal. The next annual goal is the lose weight goal, and my focus for Q2 is movement. Now, I want to start off by saying that does not mean that I'm going to let everything I learned from my nutrition coach fall by the wayside. What it means is I'm going to work on that being just a part of my life and not being a part of my goals. I'm going to work on taking what I learned from her and what I worked on in Q1 and just applying it to my life and see how that goes. Let's be honest, after a month, it might be terrible and I might change my mind. I might go crawling back to her and be like, I need accountability again. And I might add tracking back into my power sheets, who knows? But at least for the first month of the quarter, I'm gonna take a break from making nutrition part of my goals and really focus on movement. So some of the things that I want to focus on, besides obviously like working out, I want to focus on getting my steps in, I want to focus on stretching, I want to focus on closing my Apple Watch rings, and the additional movement besides just working out, because we got a Peloton. I don't know if you've seen that in a video yet, but we did get a Peloton. So the actual working out, I feel pretty motivated because the Peloton's there. Now, when you watch next week's April goals video, I did include some workout steps as part of my April goals, but my really overall quarterly focus is I want to focus on the other types of movement, the steps, the kind of, I think it's called NEAT. It's like non-exercise activity time, I think is what it stands for. I want to make sure that I'm also focusing on those types of movements and stretching as well this quarter. And then the last major goal, which is to prioritize our physical space, also has two quarterly focuses this quarter. I almost said this month, but this quarter. And the first one is to establish a cleaning routine. Now that we live in a much larger space, I want to create a cleaning routine that is sustainable, something that we can be consistent with, and something that works for our space. We did used to, pre-pandemic days, have a cleaning service come into our apartment. And that was great, and I appreciate it. One, I'm not comfortable or ready yet for that to be the situation. And two, it's going to be more expensive now that we have a larger space. And so we're not quite sure that's something we want to work into our budget right now. So my goal for Q2 is to make a cleaning plan and then execute on that cleaning plan. The other physical space quarterly focus is, I couldn't decide what I wanted to call this, whether it was get settled, finish decorating, like basically finish the apartment. By the end of the quarter, I want to be finished with the apartment. There are still a lot of things to do. We have a lot of furniture to build, we have a lot of things to order, we have a lot of decor to get and figure out where it wants to go, we have a lot of things to hang up, and I think it's reasonable that we are done with that by the end of June. That feels like it's pretty feasible. I also just know that by the end of June, it's probably, hopefully, time for us to have guests coming back to our apartment, or we're gonna be traveling and we're going to be spending time outside of the apartment and not here focusing on it. And so I really wanna make sure that by the end of the quarter, we are in a good place with that. I also think that if by the end of the quarter, we are in a good place with the apartment settled, decor, furniture, all the things, and an established cleaning routine, the overarching annual goal of prioritizing our physical space, there's not much left. that I wanted to incorporate. That was the big one, was moving and a cleaning routine. And so that's one of the other reasons that I wanted to do both of those. I mean, I wanted to do both because we need to clean this apartment somehow and we need to get settled. But I'm really kind of leaning towards that goal being done at the end of June. Like, there's nothing else that I can really think of that was part of prioritizing our physical space. Maybe for Q3, I'll include like continue the cleaning routine, but otherwise, I think that that goal might be able to be done. And what's great about that is that frees up so much time and mental space and space in my power sheets for me to focus on the other major goals and then some of the minor goals. I just wanted to share that to remind you that even if something is a really important goal, a major goal, that doesn't mean it has to take the whole year. That doesn't mean you have to incorporate it every month for the whole year. It's something that it could be temporary and something that you check off halfway through the year. Okay, now time for the minor goals. So the first one is about solidifying our relationship. And like I mentioned before, I am just carrying over the Q1 focus into Q2, and that is to spend quality time together. So I wrote down a couple of ideas, make the ideal list, maybe a game night. That's about as far as I've gotten so far. I really, again, we spend so much time together. We both work from home. We spend a lot of time together. But a lot of our time is spent watching TV, eating next to each other, and it's not as much like, again, quality time. I want quality over quantity. And the other reason I think that it's valuable that we establish this now is that once things go back to somewhat normal and we aren't spending all this quantity together, I want to make sure that we still have that quality already established in our routine. Okay, so the next minor goal is the goal of doing things that make me happy. But what I wrote down on this quarterly page was rest and fun. And I'm like, that feels like a great description. Like, things that make me happy, that's nice wording and it sounds nice, but rest and fun. That's basically what I'm getting at with this category. So the mini goal for Q2, and I know that some of you are going to laugh as soon as I say that, is one little word. And the reason I put this here, because one little word is goal focus and it is personal development, but I want it to be about fun for me. I want it to be about the enjoyment of the crafting process and not necessarily something that I have to do. But I want to get caught up. And so my goal for Q2 is to do 2 months each month, because I haven't done any of it, if you didn't catch that. And so if I do January and February, and then March and April, and then May and June, I will be all caught up by the end of June. So that is the goal. This is one of those goals, kind of like the online courses, that's very simple. It doesn't require a lot of like breakdown and figuring out what the steps are, because there are goals. If you watch the how to break down your goals video that I did, there are goals that are, it's tough to think about all the steps and what order you should do them in and all of that. This is a simple goal. I know what the steps are and I know the cadence I need to do them at to finish by the end of the quarter. I just need to execute. And then the last minor goal is intentional about spending and saving. And I already hinted at our Q2 focus. I say our because it has to do with Sam as well. I already hinted at this in another video. The focus that I am going to be focused on and I will need Sam's help with is combining our finances. Now, we are not getting married until March of next year, regardless of what your beliefs are in terms of combining finances. I'm not legally combining any of our finances this quarter. What I am planning to do is taking control of our day-to-day finances, and then he's going to take control of our like long-term finances. I learned this from Emily Lay's book, A Simplified Life, where she talked about with her and her husband that somebody is the secretary and somebody is the CEO. And the secretary's job is to maintain the day-to-day budget, track the day-to-day expenses, and the CEO's job is to think about the long-term future, the long-term savings and goals and investments. Well, luckily, that's what Sam does for a living as a financial advisor, where I am very detail oriented and good at tracking the day-to-day spending. So it works out perfectly that I am going to create now a combined spreadsheet. He doesn't even have a spreadsheet. I'm going to create a combined spreadsheet that will track the expenses for both of us. And I am going to, again, track those day-to-day expenses and really get a grasp on that and our combined expenses. And then find out what our balance is at the end of the month, where we have that extra money to invest and save in other places. And then he is going to take that and do with it what he thinks we should do with it. And so that is my focus. We're still gonna keep everything, like all of the accounts separate. We're gonna have each have the logins to the accounts, and I'm gonna end up combining some of the savings accounts. Instead of us each having our own separate emergency fund, I'm gonna put both of our emergency funds together in one savings account and use the other savings account for our next major savings, which is a down payment, and kind of rearrange things a little bit that way. But I'm not like going to the bank to get a combined account. I'm just combining our finances from an operational standpoint. That is my focus for Q2. So those are all my quarterly focuses for Q2 this year. Let me know down in the comments if quarterly goals is something that you're also doing, whether it's because you're using the power sheets, or if you feel like just having these quarterly focuses gives you some guidelines as you set your monthly action items. Now, I said this in prior months, there might still be action items that show up on my monthly attending list that don't exactly relate back to these quarterly focuses. It does not mean that all of the things that I do in the next 3 months fall into these 8 buckets. The majority of them will, but there might be one-off things here and there, but they give me a place to start when I'm thinking of the action steps that I want to do each quarter. And that April action step video will be coming out next week. So that is going to be it for this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, please click that subscribe button. I upload new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday focused on helping you achieve your goals. Thank you so much for watching. This gets a check out to build our, not build, that's not the word. Our goal was, to basically just do, not basically, really basic, and saving thoughtfully. No, that's not the word. A guiding, or, oh, there's a bug on the window.